Old themes are causing new controversies on the campaign trail. First, the movement that helped propel Donald Trump onto the national political stage, the claim he made over and over again that President Obama was not born in the U.S. and not a legitimate president. Here's a montage of some of his statements over the years.
And if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, then he has pulled one of the great cons in the history of politics.
But now a change of heart. First, the Trump campaign released a statement saying Obama was in fact born in Hawaii and a legitimate president. Trump himself waited a bit to weigh in, and when he did, it was to try and tie the whole birther conspiracy to Hillary Clinton.
Now, not to mention her in the same breath, but Hillary Clinton and her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy. I finished it. You know what I mean. President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period.
And you know what I mean. Now, it is important to note that no one has ever successfully linked Hillary Clinton or her formal campaign to the birther movement, and she quickly jumped on Trump's flip-flop.
We know who Donald is. For 5 years, he has led the birther movement to delegitimize our first black president.
The other theme that reemerged was the Trump claim Clinton opposed the Second Amendment yet again. He said that at a Friday rally and had an implied threat that she could be hurt by her stance on guns.
I think what we should do is she goes around with armed bodyguards like you have never seen before. I think that her bodyguards should drop all weapons. They should disarm, right? I think they should disarm immediately. What do you think? Yes? Yes. Yeah. Take their guns away. She doesn't want guns. Let's see what happens to her.
All of this comes as more media outlets are calling Trump out on his false statements, even calling him a liar. So how will all of this play out in the campaign? Joining me are Lila Alphonse, managing editor at U.S. News and World Report. Good to see you again. And Boston Globe op-ed columnist Dante Ramos. Good to see you too. So returning to the birther issue, let's do that first. Even if it's to distance himself, does that hurt him or does it help him?
It's really hard to say. I don't think it's anything other than a change in the polls. So there's a change in the message, really.
I read a lot this weekend that it's not for young black voters to get a few more. What it's for is college-educated whites who have not voted for a Democrat since 1952, and this is going to make him less unacceptable. You buy that?
I could see that, definitely. Keep in mind, the people who are already in his camp, the people who already think that the president was not born in the country, they're not going to change his mind. There's still an undercurrent of some sort of dog whistle to them going, all right, I'm talking to other people now.
You don't think they feel abandoned?
I don't think so.
I think he's playing two different games. I think one of the dynamics is what you're describing, which is to abandon this position that is kind of patently ludicrous. On the other hand, I thought the way that he did it still bespoke a certain marking of territory on his part.
Meaning what?
Meaning that he said, oh, well, I basically made Obama, or, he and his campaign have said, we made Obama show his birth certificate. So there's an element of, oh, well, we chose the first black president who's boss, and it's Donald Trump. So I think, maybe the abandonment of the position, I'm not sure that really helps him. I think the way in which he did it and the way he's explained it to his voters reinforces the kind of ideas he's been trying to circulate all along.
Even in addition to the change, whatever amount of change was on the part of Trump, the biggest thing, I'm sitting at home Friday night, and I'm stunned by the change in the media. Let me read you a few headlines, if I can, if we can put them up here. This is from this whole experience. Donald Trump clung to birther lie is the word for years and still isn't apologetic. Headline from the New York Times. From your operation, I should say, lies upon birther lies. Then Huffington Post, which is less significant, obviously, considering its leaning. CNN finally had it with Donald Trump's lies. I have never seen words like that in a headline about Trump or spoken by anchors. My assessment, tell me if you disagree with this, is the Matt Lauer embarrassment, the second half when he didn't ask follow-up questions, and the press was angry because they were played Friday morning when they all went live to this thing that was supposed to be his birther announcement, when for the first, 30 minutes it was Medal of Honor winners praising Donald Trump. Were you surprised by what at least I saw as a change in the press handling of this?
I think that the change in tone has been quite dramatic and quite noticeable.
By the press?
By the press.
You seen lie in a headline like that about a presidential candidate recently?
It's really unusual. On the other hand, most people who are running for president will take a little bit more care about not lying. I mean, if you're actually lying to people, you know,
But he was
more
lying
likely
2
to be-
months ago about the same issue. The part that's a lie, obviously, is the part that Hillary Clinton gave birth. I don't mean that as a pun to this whole thing. They weren't calling that a lie in their headlines. They were saying he is factual. There's no factual backup for this. This seems to me to be
You saw this starting, though, just a few months ago when CNN was fact-checking the Cryons. You know, Trump says this, not true. But I think now people are more willing to call a spade, I suppose. It is a lie that Hillary Clinton started this movement. It is also a lie that he put it to rest in 2011 in his book that came out shortly after the president produced his birth
but I'm
certificate.
talking about the choice
He
of words.
said
I'm
the
not
same
saying it's
thing.
not a lie. I'm just saying I haven't heard these kinds of words out of an anchor's mouth on a responsible station or in a headline in a paper like the New York Times or your operation,
I don't think we've
say.
had a candidate that does this, though, before.
But they didn't do it much. I guess my point was, what was the jumping off point on Friday? This seemed to me to be a change.
Well, you know, in a way, you had downplayed the Huffington Post headline about CNN anchors finally, having had it.
CNN finally had it with Donald Trump
I think
twice.
that emotional dynamic exists where
They finally had it?
They literally finally had it. They literally couldn't even. They had enough and realized at that moment, look, we've been sort of playing this guy's game all along. We just got taken
But
one
it
more
seemed
time.
like to me, it seemed like all the news people got in the room together, you people and everybody else, and said, "Okay, today's the day. Let's start
We
doing
had
it."
all our
It was-
tin cans and our string. And
Exactly,
we were on
that's what it was.
I think that after hearing for months that the media made this candidate, the media gave this candidate $2 billion worth of free advertising, that the media is finally taking a little bit of
Yeah,
responsibility.
but we're making it sound like we in the media are all of a sudden responsible. See, my sense is at least a piece of this is the media really felt abused
I think
by
the
Trump
media's-
at that Friday event in D.C. And
There's
the
that.
mindset was, okay, you're going to do this to us? Now all is fair.
The media is also reaching out to their target audience. A lot of people are reacting, why isn't anyone calling this? So they're giving the readers and the viewers what they want.
One last thing, we only have a minute left. The Second Amendment thing, basically, once again, the New York Times said he raised the specter of violence against Hillary Clinton. It seemed to me the point that he was trying to make, I'm not speaking for Donald Trump, was she doesn't want people to have guns? Okay, fine, let's take away guns from her people. But the way it was read, her protectors, the way it was read was, oh, it's fair game, yet again, as he's done before, on Hillary Clinton. How'd you read it?
I read it as, the fear-based pitch that he is making to voters is essentially that the average citizen should be as afraid of assassination or terrorist attack or whatever as a major party nominee for president. That is empirically not true, but it is a fear-based appeal, and I think that's what's underlying that statement. I mean, I think, saying like, oh, he's calling for violence against her, I don't know that that's really what he's doing, but I think that the underlying emotional message is probably something that does resonate with a certain subset of
You have
voters.
15 seconds
The
to
key
end it.
difference is he didn't just use the old argument of take away their guns, let's see what happens. He said, let's see what happens to her. To a lot of people, that seems like an invitation. Her protectors are disarmed, go for it. Whether that's really what he meant or not, I mean, that's up for debate, but that was the key difference. In the past, it's been take away the Secret Service guns, let's see whether the argument continues, and now it's let's see what happens.
It sounded to me like the old Donald Trump, the unmanaged, the unscripted, back to the
Yeah,
primary
that was
Donald
definitely
Trump.
off message.
Lila, it's great to see you.
Nice to
Dante,
see you
you
too.
as well. Thanks.
Good to see you.